Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another round of the GT3 League as brought to you by UK Sim Racing Community. And of course, it is the case as we continue our way through Season 7. We are back tonight for round 3 of the 12-round calendar. And it is the case that we are headed to Japan today for the newly introduced Japanese circuit, recently introduced to iRacing, that is the premier sim racing platform available on PC of Fuji International Speedway. That's right, in a season first, indeed in a series first, our drivers will be headed to the legendary Japanese circuit, known most for its start-finish straight, but also known for some other things which we'll cover in due course. And it is the case we're going to see some furious racing action tonight over the course of our one and only sprint race lasting 40 minutes. But of course, we'll come to the schedule and all the other details in due course. But in terms of tonight's broadcast, it's being brought to you live on the UK Sim Racing Twitch channel, that being twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing. And it is the case in the commentary box, it is myself once again, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be bringing you all of your racing action over the course of this season. This series is sponsored by Swelly Ameda Sim Racing Coaching as well, and brought to you in affiliation with Race Anywhere. On top of that, it is the case it's going to be close, it's going to be fast, and well, if Long Beach is any indicator of the racing action we're due to expect tonight, the street circuit we saw drivers take to last time out in the United States of America, this season is only building up more and more, and I dare say that given the quality of the racing we've seen after only 2 rounds of racing action. Would you believe it? We're not even a quarter of the way through. We will become the end of tonight, but it is the case so far. We have seen so much racing action, I cannot tell you how much I'm looking forward to this round. Well, we'll come to this round as we move forward to look at the season ahead, and it is the case we started off with round number 1 at the Hockenheim Ring back on the 19th of June. And then made our way to Long Beach on the 26th of June. And today it is Fuji International Speedway for round number 3. And you'll see that it says that the race occurred on the 3rd of July. And why am I using the past tense? Well, it's the case that this broadcast is a post-round broadcast. It is the case this is not live per se, but instead we are bringing you the broadcast as if it were live. The race took place on the 3rd of July, and today, of course, is the 5th of July. So your watch or your calendar's not out of date. It is the case that we are 2 days after the race. So sorry for any confusion there, but it's the case we'll be bringing you all the racing action as if it were live, and therefore try to bring you all of the effects and whatnot of the atmosphere, given the fact that I as your commentator do not know how this race has played out. I don't know who the winners are, I don't know whether there's any major instance or anything along those lines, so it's the case it's completely raw to me. And to those of you tuning in who raced in this round, all I do ask of course is you don't put any spoilers in the Twitch chat, because we will be looking at the Twitch chat over the course of the racing action to engage you guys and girls where we can, and we prefer not to have the result taken away from us. Indeed, there may be some viewers tuning in, particularly family members who don't know the outcome and have been told to wait until the broadcast tonight. But after tonight, it will be the case that for round number 4 in a week's time, we'll be heading back to the United States for Watkins Glen International, and on the 10th of July that race will occur. It'll be the first of the series 3 feature race rounds, which are worth double points. Then we'll be heading to Canada to the Charles Villeneuve circuit, effectively a street circuit, albeit not on the streets of any particular Canadian city or town, but it's considered to be a street circuit given the close proximity of the walls, and we'll talk more about that when we do get to round number 5. After which we'll then be heading back to the European continent for round number 6 at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, and it will be the case that was previously a feature race, but it's been changed to a sprint race given the clash with the official iRacing 24 Hours of Spa, and that was voted on by a driver's last time out, and indeed we did cover that. And then after Spa, we'll be heading all the way over to Sandown in Australia for the circuit, which is the home of Speedway, and it will be the case that Sandown, another circuit, which is a very new one to iRacing and one that will be very new to our drivers, albeit they'll have a bit more time for practice for Sandown compared to for Fuji. We'll then be making our way back to the European continent for the Hungaroring on the 7th of August for round number 8, before making our way to Japan once again for Suzuka to Honda's test circuit on round number 9 on the 14th of August, and it'll be round number 10, which sees the second of our 3 feature races in Germany at the Nürburgring Grand Prix Strecker Circuit on the 21st of August, before we head to the penultimate round back in the United States of America at Mid-Ohio on the 28th of August, and then last but not least, our final round, round number 12, will be at Road Atlanta in the United States, the ultimate roller coaster ride of a circuit, and the race will occur on the 4th of September, and the broadcast will follow a couple of days after. Goodness, we have got an absolutely packed season ahead, and we're going to unpick it little by little, and well, we focus on our track for tonight, and that is Fuji International Speedway, located at Oyama in the Sunto district of the Shizuoka Prefecture of Japan. It is the case that this circuit, as you can see from the circuit map provided to us by the user Rumbin from wikipedia.org, is made up officially of 16 corners. Now there are some corners here which you'd argue are a single corner rather than made up of 2 or 3 combinations, such as 100R for example. You can see that's actually made up of turns 4 and 5. Some would consider that to be a single corner, but we'll use the full turn 16 nomenclature here, and it is the case that you can see from the circuit map an incredibly long start-finish straight. And when I say incredibly long, I mean it is the case. This is one of the longest start-finish straights in any road racing circuit in the world, coming in at just shy of 1.5 kilometers, almost a mile long. And it is the case it sets up some brilliant slipstream opportunities down into the first corner, known as first, or the number 1 hairpin, turn number 1, before the run down towards Coca-Cola corner at turn 3. The first 2 sectors are sweepers. It's all about carrying speed through medium speed apexes, 100R being a very prominent corner, and the same with the turn 6 hairpin that flows out into turn 7 through to 9, the runner of 300R that runs up to Dunlop hairpin at turn number 10. After that, it becomes a very technical circuit of Fuji, where you can see from turn 10 all the way to the final corner at Panasonic, which is bridged by turn 13, also known as 13th, and next corner of turns 14 and 15, it is the case we have a variety of low-speed corners and also cambered corners in some instances, such as turn 14 and 15 in particular, while drivers will be put to the test in terms of their low-speed controllability. So Fuji, whilst on paper it has a very long straight, and that's what it's known for, it has a little bit more than that, and indeed it is a circuit which will put our drivers to the test over the course of tonight's proceedings. Now, before we get to tonight's proceedings, it's only appropriate that we do bring you a brief word from our sponsor for the series, and that is Suelio Almeida Sim Racing Coaching.
Hello guys, my name is Suelio Almeida. I am a multi-champion sim racer and professional racing coach with more than 1,300 hours of experience so far. My background is a little bit odd. I'm actually a master in piano, in classical piano. I have more than 16 years and more than 10 international and national prizes in piano competitions and music competitions. With my musical background and all experience about technique development, I brought these skills to sim racing and developed many new methods and many new ways to efficiently practice and find time in racing as well. Because of that background, I did very well since my very first coaching session that I started because I had to pay my tuition here in Montreal doing my master's degree at the University of Montreal in piano. This is the rig that I had when I started my first coaching sessions 2.5 years ago. By that time, I was already within the 0.38% top drivers in the world in iRacing. Back then, I was already able to claim my first overall season in Formula 3 in iRacing, which is a very difficult achievement as I was competing with former World Championship drivers. I ended up collecting many other championships as well. In 2021, I was able to claim the Porsche Esports Spring Challenge Canada Championship title,
Suelio Almeida in the number 3, your champions,
which actually put me in a real Porsche 911 on a real track for the first time in my life. And the key for that, guys, was proper practice, efficient practice. I really used my hours to always learn something new. Every time I was going to practice, I was really looking for new information, external information, opinions from teammates, from friends. I did coaching sessions. I really researched. I read books about setups. I read articles, videos about racing techniques and how to develop them. And I really wanted to, always grow, never hit a plateau. I really wanted to always learn something. And nowadays, my passion is teaching. After having worked for more than 1,300 sessions, coaching sessions, each session being 1 hour, and seeing all the development on students going from 2,000 iRating to 5,000 iRating, and students who were having problems with anxiety or not being able to learn, not being able to improve, really conquering their races, getting their first wins, and really improving and becoming more confident and happier, I really figured out that that was my fulfilling mission. I really wanted to teach more, and I was gathering information. I was gathering and understanding the patterns of the technique and how we learn faster, how we develop our technique faster. I was even able to apply all that to my own technique. With my coaching sessions, I started learning how to coach myself, and that is what this course is about.
So hearing there from Swelio Meda themselves, is the case. Swelio Meda is contributing to the prize pool for this series, whereby the winner of each class shall win a pass to Swelio's Motor Racing Checklist course, a fundamental course if you're looking to up your game in iRacing through Swelio Meda's sim racing coaching. And why should you listen to Meda? Well, it is the case that they are a multi-champion in numerous overall official series and leagues on iRacing, including the 2021 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. But coming from our title sponsor, who we're very grateful to be working with, of course, to the circuit side, and it is the case. Our schedule for tonight in this round number 3 is as follows. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST or UTC +1. In just under 4 minutes time, we'll be getting underway with the qualifying session, 15 minutes in length, also approximately 4 laps. There is 20 minutes available on the clock for our drivers, but it is the case that we're expected to take around 15 minutes, and the reason for that is that because we're taking a look back at an iRacing replay file, we're only going to be able to see the perspective of one driver, the driver who provided us with the replay file, because the qualifying session is done as a closed individual session. So what does that mean in layman's terms? Each driver will take to the circuit by themselves in an isolated Fuji circuit. They have their own instance, and therefore they can put qualifying laps in without having to worry about other drivers on the circuit. And when you have 43 drivers in GT3 class cars taken to the circuit at Fuji, it is a big circuit, but it's not a huge circuit, unlike say the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and it is the case they could trip up over one another and compromise one another's qualified sessions, so we give them the space to do it in their own isolated instance. So we'll get a couple of onboards with Alex Hill as he takes us around the circuit and give you an idea of what it's like to put in a fast lap around the Fuji International Speedway. After that, we'll be getting ready to go racing, and at approximately 8:15 this evening, we'll be kicking off our one and only race tonight. That is the 40-minute sprint race, where we'll be all in no hard-barred action from start to finish, and we'll see who comes out on top when we do reach the checkered flag. Well, it is the case that as we are waiting to go racing, we do have one announcement to make, and as we look to one driver making their way around the circuit in particular right now, we can see here is Matthew Morris, the privateer. Now, some of you may be thinking, he's got a gold sash next to his name. Does that mean he's moved to the gold class? You would be correct. Now, you may remember, tuning in at Long Beach last time out, we did say that any drivers who were overperforming within their respective classes would be judged by the organiser of this series, by UK Sim Race themselves, with regards to where they stand in the classes and may be promoted, or alternatively, if they were underperforming significantly within their class compared to their peers, they may be demoted. But it is the case that after 2 rounds, the decision was made to promote Matthew Morris from the bronze class, where he was absolutely in dominant form at both the Hockenheimring and also Long Beach, to an unfortunate incident at Long Beach really scuppered his race. But it is the case Matthew Morris has shown the pace to be promoted to the gold class, and to be fair, he may have gone up 2 classes, but I can tell you right now he's looking very good in this final practice session with less than 2 minutes to go, with the fact he is currently P3 in the gold class, P13 overall, only being outpaced right now by Joshua Pratt and Nathan Foster. And I do think that Morris is going to rise to the challenge, there is no doubt about that, as he flies down the start finish straight, reaching the highest possible speed on this circuit. But that's the major change. Otherwise, as far as I've been informed, all of the other classes, whether they be the platinum class, the gold class, the silver class, or the bronze classes, they are as they were going into the season. Morris is the only change, but if we do hear of any others, we will keep you informed, ladies and gentlemen, as time goes on. We should see the classes now settle down, and the question will really be with regards to who in the bronze class is able to fill Morris's boots, given the fact now we have taken away our leader of the bronze class. The points have been redistributed based on the opening 2 rounds, out of fairness to all drivers, Morris and his bronze peers, and we'll have to wait to see now whether it will be the case. Oscar Rocha, for example, could take the initiative, or will it be current fastest driver in the bronze class, Darren Sharples, parked in the pit lane there, and indeed all of our drivers parked up and waited to go as we look to the blimp camera here, less than a minute in this practice session. And whilst we are waiting to go into qualifying, we do say hello here to a number of you are tuning in right now. And well, just to go through this, so many of you here on Twitch, it's absolutely fantastic to see. We've got Chris Hitcher, we've also got Solost 1450, we've also got Spike 2120 subscribing at tier 1. They've subscribed for 7 months. Thank you, Spike. We've also got there my guy Sai, Jerome J.99. We've also got Mr. Min 87, Sharp Nipples, Sam Congreve. Also we've got Chris Eddy for UKSR. We've also got there Medbo. We've also got Nathan Willoughby. Goodness me, you're all tuning out in absolutely fantastic form, and it wouldn't have had the full race. We've also got there Hate Fury 101 and 306 Rally and Jonathan Hitch. And good evening to you all. And I do see there you saying that Hate Fury with regards to trading paints not working. We have loaded trading paints a couple of times. It may be a glitch with 1 or 2 drivers. That does happen every so often, but hopefully things are able to be fixed over the course of tonight. And if not, of course, if there's anything wrong with tonight's broadcast, we'll take that feedback away and we'll improve it for the next round. It is the case we may not get it perfect the first time out, but we will achieve perfection as time goes on. And speaking of perfection. It's now to our drivers, of course, to achieve perfection in this qualifying session. And we will only see the perspective of Alex Hill as he currently sits at the end of the pit lane here, the Tiki Simsport driver in the BMW M4 GT3, and he'll be looking to go qualify very shortly. Just waiting at the moment, parked in the pit lane, and you can imagine here just settling down and getting himself ready. Probably reading over his notes as well, his circuit notes with regards to what lap times he's targeting, how he's going to build up these 4 qualifying laps that he has available to him. All of our drivers, of course, only have 4 laps available. If they go to pit the 5th lap, it will be discounted. So therefore, they get the one warm-up lap, I should say, and then 4 flying laps. And Alex Hill will need to use this warm-up lap to get a feel for where the car is in terms of its condition, and then set those laps and build. Now, of course, he will start off with a certain amount of fuel in the car, and he'll be going faster and faster each and every lap he does because the fuel will burn out of the car. Now, as he makes his way around, for those who are uninitiated in tuning in on the UK Sim Racing Twitch channel, it may be the case that you may not have noticed yet that UK Sim Racing has recently launched the ability to obtain credits by subscribing to our Twitch channel. You can apply these credits on checkout when purchasing league entries on our official website, and we have 3 tiers of subscription available. We have tier 1 at $3.99 a month, that's $3.99 Great British pounds there, or using your Twitch Prime subscription. At tier 2 for £7.99 per month, or tier 3, the ultimate tier, at £19.99 per month. And you can find out more by creating an account on our website, that's uksimracing.co.uk, to find out how you can get yourself credits today and use those to purchase entries into the leagues that we run on a regular basis on iRacing. But right now, of course, Alex Hill participates in this league. He won't be thinking about credits, he'll be thinking about going as fast as possible to achieve prizes come the end of the season. And as he makes his way out of the final corner, we now ride on board with the BMW M4 driver as he heads towards the timeline to take us around for his first flying lap here. Now, as he heads on down, it will feel as though it goes on forever. You can't see turn 1 at the moment, and I can promise you it is the case. You just can't see turn 1. It's a long way away, but as he finally goes across the timing line, now heading the way down here at the highest possible speeds. We're going to be seeing drivers getting an excess of 160, if not 160 miles down here in the slipstream, and braking at the 150 meter board and just after it, coming all the way down to first gear, and now charging out turn 1, using the runoff curve in there before coming through the kink of 2, and now up towards turn number 3 into Coca-Cola corner. He'll be looking to his right, looking for that 100 meter board or the 50 meter board. A bit of snap braking out on the 50 meter board with a lot of brake bias loaded towards the rig, brings the rear round, and now staying very tight to the central apex of turns 4 and 5. You see he'll bring the car out on the exit of 4 to turn it back into the apex of 5, and then pull the car over to the right to break into the hairpin of 6. A flying sequence there where you've got to be on the ball with your car positioning. And now as he comes through the kink of 7, full throttle from this point onwards, all the way down to turn number 10, through the kink of 8, through the kink of 9, through 300R as the combination is known, and now braking for what is the turn 10 hairpin, coming all the way down the gearbox at Dunlop as the corner's nicknamed. And as he rolls on out here through the chicane of turn 11 into 12, he'll need to stamp on the throttle as early as possible, straight lining through 12, pulling the car to left for turn 13. And as he rolls his way over the uphill apex there, it's a blind apex effect, you can't see what's on the other side until you clear it. And as he comes through at 14 into 15, another blind apex through turn number 15, where it's uphill into that left-hander, and now the trail braking zone of 16, where you've got to brake as late as possible and as gently as possible to rotate the car in a corner which tries to push the car wide, but nicely hooked up there by Alex Hill. And as he heads down towards the timing line, it will be the case this will be his first line lap, and then we'll stay with him for one more lap before we transition our way into the build-up to the race, of course. And as he comes across the line, that will be a 37.668, but I do get the feeling that Hill's got a bit more in the tank as the Platinum driver as he makes his way on down this time. And now you'll see it from an external perspective in terms of what it looks like when the GT3 is flying around here up close and personal, coming through the first corner. Now, the things that we needed to watch out for in the race today in terms of drives, not just the slipstream battles down the start-finish straight, but also whether drivers are able to make the break in the latter half of the lap. The whole idea behind Fuji in terms of racing, whether you're watching Super GT, GT3s run around here, or everything in between, the idea is you want to stay as close as possible to your rival, particularly in the run through the final sector, to attack them down that start-finish straight. However, that's not where all the overtaking occurs. We also do see overtaking into the turn 6-7 hairpin, as you see that Alex Hill getting a near-perfect run out of turn 6 and running on that exit curb that flows into turn number 7 there, a very smooth line before he now comes down into Dunlop chicane hairpin. And here another major overtake in place, but the idea is, do you overtake here or do you sit behind your opponent? But the challenge is, if you sit behind, particularly in this final sector, you're exposed to the dirty air off of the back of the driver in front, and that can make it harder to get the turning capability for the purposes of what is this technical section as he comes up through Net's corner here, where the car will naturally just want to straight line given the nature of the road surface. but you've got to try and hook the car up. And we can imagine it will be the case that when our drivers are running very close together, it's the driver at the front who will be trying to make that break, and they'll need at least a second's gap, if not more, because as they come into this start-finish straight, it will be the situation that if they're not over a second clear, then all their hard work is for nothing as they come charging down towards turn number 1 once again. But of course, when we get to the final moments of the race, as we see Alex Hill actually parking up and jumping to the pits, he's not happy with that. He's going to go again here, and that will mean he only gets one more flying lap, because this next lap, as he makes his way out, will be counted as a lap. It will be the situation for the Tiki Simsport driver where he's got it all to do as he flows on around. Now, other things as well with regards to our drivers and laps around here, in terms of the fact we've got mid-engine and what is front-engine cars. We're expecting our front-engine rear-wheel drive cars, of course, normally based on the balance of performance. They're a little bit stronger on the straights, but they suffer in the corners due to their weight distribution compared to the mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars. We imagine it should be very close around here because given the nature of the straightaways only really being the start-finish straight, there's no other major straight. You could argue the run from turn 6 to turn 10 is a curve straight, but it's a bit of a tricky one given how it tapers through the apexes of 8 and 9. We could be seeing some major slipstream over opportunities there, but really it's that start for the straight that is going to be where the straight line speed cars such as the Mercedes and the BMW will dominate, whereas it will be down to our driver setups here that will really make the difference. But also driver comfort, that's one thing we haven't really talked about. Fuji is a circuit, I haven't talked from experience on other sims, I can tell you it is a circuit which if you love the circuit, you're going to do well here, whereas if you don't like it, it can be a circuit that can really feel hard to drive around for the simple reason this circuit doesn't take any prisoners, and if you're not on the ball with your trail braking, particularly through at turns 14 and 15 into 16, it's the case that the circuit can catch you out very nastily as Hill now comes on around to do one more lap in short order, and we'll ride on board with this, expecting this will most likely be an improved lap as he comes rolling on through. As he heads on down the straight here, we do ride on board once again, and we do look to the chat in the meantime here as he heads all the way down towards turn number 1, and this time you can see they're setting himself up nicely, getting a good run out the final corner. He sets a personal best in the final sector, which is a sign that now he's on the ball and braking all the way down to turn number 1, and you'll see it will take a huge amount of that apex curve and then just let the car drift out. He's got to be very careful of the steering lock on that exit curve, because what's not quite visible from the perspective of Hill's cockpit is the fact that exit curve at turn 1 is slanted very heavily, and if you put too much steering lock in and you haven't settled the weight of the car down, it can actually cause the weight distribution of the car to kick around, and we may see some drivers falling victims to that and get some oversteer on the exit of turn number 1. But as he rolls through 4, 5 and up towards 6 this time, a much smoother run. You can see here as he brings the car into the apex of the trail braking, he now gets back on the accelerator and rolls it out there into the V-shaped curve of turn number 7. Very nicely hooked up, and Hill this time really on the ball in that sector 1, and as he makes his way through sector 2 down into the Dunlop hairpin this time, it is the case. Looking good so far, takes a lot of apex curve there, which he can do in the BMW. The BMW does do well on curbs, and he does the same there for turn number 12. Now as he crosses the timing line there for sector 2, it's another personal best. He is continuing to improve here, and as he rolls his way now through next corner of turn 14 into 15, gets a nice early apex run there. That's going to bode very well for the exit of 15, heading up into 16 here. He's going to have to go as late as he dares to try and get it to a nice late apex, and he does. And as he exits out, he makes sure to use a little bit of the exit curve, but not too much at turn 16, because those bump sausage strips, those yellow strips which will kick the car around. And as he heads down to the timeline this time, it's a better lap for certain. He's going to come on through, and what will it be to set his qualifying time? It is going to be a 37. I believe that is a 37.3 unless I'm very much mistaken, although it does not seem to have tripped over in the timings. I think he may have been caught with track limits there, but I would hope that was on the limit, but it's the case. I think it's why the automated stewards has decided he's got a limit somewhere, but that is the case. Those are some laps of Fuji International Speedway as provided by Alex Hill, and we'll be back very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, to start the build up to our sprint race. Don't go anywhere, we won't be more than 2 minutes. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back and we are now building up to go racing, and let's take you through the grid for round number 3 of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League Season 7 as brought to you here at Fuji International Speedway. So, as a lineup, it's Jonathan Hitchin taking pole position once again. Hitchin making a habit of being the fastest man in terms of single lap pace. The privateer there, 1/10 faster than Dan Ferrier from Slow and Steady Racing. Ferrier, of course, looking for retribution after a disastrous end to his race at Long Beach, which saw him lose out on a 4th place finish. James Armstrong from Bram Esports makes up our second row with James Acklam alongside him, the privateer. And now on row number 3, it's Damien Lobbett and Will Mason. On row 4, Austin Campbell is joined by Carl McGurk, the gold driver there, taking up pole position in the gold class, with Sam Congreve and Matthew Morris there making up our 5th row, with Cy Anthony and Alex Hill on row number 6. Behind them is Stephen Kennedy from TGC Racing, who is joined by David Lewison, the Symphony Esports driver. Lewison taking that pole position in the silver class there. A great lap by Lewison, and indeed putting a bit of space between himself and Matthias Becerra, albeit the space only being half a tenth when all is said and done, with Becerra starting off row number 8 in P15 with the gold driver Nathan Foster alongside. Row number 9 being made up of Billy Bob Ray and Joshua Pratt, followed by in row number 10 Ryan Davies and Ollie Pimley. Row number 11 goes to Daryl Norquette and Joe McManus, with Norquette having a very difficult qualifying session for Racing Forces. Definitely out of position there. He'll be looking to make his way up the order in due course, with Alan Lever and Calvin Chu line up P23 at P24 on row number 12. Behind them, on row number 13, we have Martin Tillin, the privateer, being joined by David Flanagan, the 2 gold split drivers there, with Christian Malcharek and Stephen Masters line up on row number 14. And then we have Phil Diaz on row number 15, being joined by Tyson Melenda, the silver driver. On row number 16, we have Liam Murray and Darren Sharples, with Darren Sharples being your bronze pole position driver in P32 overall. And then we have James Connolly and Tom Farrell, the 2 bronze drivers, who line up side by side on row number 17. On row number 18, Colin Patterson and Ryan Williams, the 2 silver drivers. And then behind them, we have Christian Clark and Rob Armstrong on row number 19. Then Oscar Rocha and Mark Cadmore on row number 20. Kevin Burke and Chris Constable on row number 21. And then Joe Newman line up last but not least in P43. I'm lonesome on what is row number 22. Well, this is round number 3 of the GT3 League Season 7. And as our drivers now make their way around, it is the case. We are only moments away from going racing, and it will be Jonathan Hitchin who takes us to the green as they roll their way on through. But you can see here from the blimp camera, the field really stacking up as they come to the final corner. Hitchin, of course, can dictate the pace as they make their way to the line, and now we are waiting to go racing in very short order. And it will be in the hands of one McLaren driver who sets the pace as they run towards turn 1. And we expect he will try to make them go as late as possible and catch the drivers out. But we'll wait to see whether that's how he plays it in practice. And it's lights out, away we go for round number 3 of the GT3 League Season 7 as Hitchin gets a good start there with Ferrier alongside Armstrong as they make their way battling down towards turn number 1. Now it's a long charge, of course. You can see all the field there separating out into the braking zone, and a little bit further back we've got Will T. Mason trying to get involved here in the battle with Damien Lobbett and company, as we see somebody coming in very hot there in the BMW M4. That's from half-time racing by the looks of things, but everybody making it through the opening hairpin safe and sound. A couple of drivers out of position and having to take a wide run, but everybody has made it throughout our 43 drivers, which is great to see as they come roaring on down through the Kinkatu and up towards Coca-Cola corner of turn number 3. But we look to the front here, and it is the case that Hitchin under pressure from Armstrong, and Armstrong is really trying to get the elbows out already as they roll their way through turn number 6. A bit further behind, Dan Ferrier dropping away from P2 down to P3, but to be fair, I think playing it safe this early in the race. And a little bit further behind, we can see we have got Cy Anthony here under a bit of pressure, battling with Sam Congreve and also Austin William Campbell as they roll their way down through 300R and head in towards the Dunlop hairpin. And it is the case that Cy Anthony having to go defensive here, and as they roll the way on through, it is the case that Cy Anthony really having to work that Mercedes. He's going to be on the outside to inside here through turns 11 into 12, and now as he rolls his way out, it's Damien Lobbett who gets the advantage there, able to use the rotation in the Audi R8 to gain the position, and Damien Lobbett up to P7 as they roll their way now up into turn number 15. But a bit further back, it is the case that Matthew Morris has made some major gains already, and he's hunting after McGurk here. The 2 gold drivers are going toe to toe. We did wonder how how long it would be before Morris would try and get into that fight for the lead of the gold class as they come to the end of lap number 1 and they come charging out of the corner. As they roll the way down the start-finish straight, it is the case. After one lap here, we have Jonathan Hitchin leading by only 0.2 of a second ahead of James Armstrong in P2, followed by Dan Ferrier in P3, and James Ackland in P4, Will T. Mason P5, followed by Austin William Campbell P6. Then we have Damien Lobb in P7. Cy Ansley on the offensive now as they make their way down into the braking zone for turn number 1. And it is the case here, trying to use that Mercedes brute force in terms of the engine power plant to gain an advantage. He's going to get it here as they make the way out of 1 and into 2. Now can he hold the line as they roll the way on down? It's the case that Lobbett's able to get the better run out of the corner into Coca-Cola go. You can see Sam Congreve in the back. He's going to go up the inside here. There's a little bit of a tap between the two drives. It knocks Science wide, and as they roll the way down into 100R, now it's the case. Morris is trying to go around the outside in return of McGuirk as they roll on through the two gold leaders here, battling for position behind the two platinum drives, and up the inside, that's Mateus Pereza. I think, no, out the outside, that is the case. The silver leader trying to go around the outside of what was a Hill as they made their way through turns 6 and 7. Hill being out of position and being caught behind the gold drives who are battling for position, and there's Nathan Foster, who after a very slow start taps the rear of Hill as they roll the way into Dunlop hairpin, but they all make it through this time as they come crashing down into the braking zone here, crashing down the brakes, not crashing into one another, I should clarify, and as they roll on through and out of the chicane, they now make their way up into turn number 13, a bit further back. We can see after taking that pole position in class, David Larson here has dropped a long way down the order, and I think he might have had a bit of an incident at turn number 1. Oh, goodness me! And that is Alan Lever into the wall, coming out of turn number 13 and into 14. The two dudes driver there being knocked wide by looks of things. I'm not sure if there was contact with another driver or just getting on the power too soon, but regardless, he's had a tap to the wall. He drops all the way down the order as he now tries to bring himself back together, but it's not a happy day for Alan Lever. And as we look back towards the midfield here, it is the case that Alex Hill finds himself in a very uncomfortable position as they come charging down the start finish straight once again. You can see everybody in a line here trying to stay in the tow, and you've got to feel for the drivers right at the front, and in particular to Jonathan Hitchin, who's under major pressure still from Armstrong as they come roaring up towards turn number 3 for what is the third time of asking. They've flown through, and Armstrong literally attached to the back of that McLaren as if he's surgically there. It is the case, he's not letting Hitchin go, and to be fair, I wouldn't let Hitchin go if I could possibly, because the simple reason, if you let him go, he's going to disappear off into the distance. But meanwhile, I'm hearing there's been a major incident further down. Oh, goodness me. And that is Darren Sharples. We're hearing that Liam Murray has jumped to the pits. And, well, what has happened there and what is happening a bit further up the order, we've got Nathan Foster into the wall there, coming out of turn number 7 into 8. Well, no, that's not coming into turn 7 8. That's coming into turn number 4. So there's been contact on the exit of 3 by looks of things for another driver. Alternatively, Foster's got it wrong and he's dipped onto the curb, and the curb has sent him flying as they roll on through here. But you can see behind that is Alan Lever, who's trying to make a recovery drive out of this, as looking up the inside is Joe Newman here, and well, the privateer in the Porsche 911 trying to go on the offensive. This is a P12 in the class as they come charging on through, and as they now make the way on down here with 4.5 minutes to go, we bring up the battle box in the bottom right hand corner of your screen so you can track these battles a little bit closer for those of you tuning in at home as they roll their way through turn number 10, and as they come up the hill now through the chicane, of course, Joe Newman having to back out here, but definitely making his intentions very clear. He wants to go fighting, as meanwhile we see a Rob Armstrong, or he's under a bit of pressure by looks of things. It is Armstrong from what is the driver behind of Constable, but in return Armstrong's go, oh goodness me, and Armstrong there, well, he's getting his arms out and definitely trying to be a bit strong with them, because it is the case coming right up the inside of what was the BMW there and hitting it quite hard. I think in the end Oscar Rocha has decided, you know what, alright, if you want the place that badly you can have it, because the bronze driver right here, P3 in the bronze class, he doesn't need to have his wind mirrors shorn off like that, and you can see coming into the pits is Rob Armstrong. That damage to that Mercedes has caused it to come on in, as meanwhile behind this only opens up the battle between Sharples, Constable and Rocha as they make their way down. They're 3 wide here in the battle for what is P34 overall, but it's the battle for P3 in the bronze class that we're focusing on, and Sharples is going to be on the inside under braking here. And remember that Darren Sharples showing a lot of pace in the practice session, and well, he gets the position done there versus Oscar Rocha, who is battling with damage on the car. But as they roll their way down towards turn 3, we look back up towards the front of the order here, and you can see Hitchin, the 2 platinum leaders of Hitchin leading in the McLaren versus Armstrong in the BMW M4, who's on the offensive. Jonathan Hitchin is under huge pressure as they roll their way up through the chicane and now into turn number 13, and we ride on board here with James Armstrong, and you can just see how close he is to the spitting fire that's coming out the back of the McLaren as they roll their way through 14 and into 15 they come. And as they come through the left-hander, it is a case that right now you can see how Hitchin is just able to open up these small gaps between each of the corner apexes in the final sector, but it's not enough to keep him safe by any means. And the problem is now that James Armstrong can just completely follow him down. And do keep in mind, of course, we've typically seen there is a pit stop in these sprint races, I should say. So it is the case right now Armstrong may be staying close, given the fact he's got a 1 second advantage over Dan Ferrier behind, but he may be doing some fuel saving here down the start-finish straight and just lifting and coasting into the braking zone for the hairpin, which will be a tactical advantage he can deploy in the pit stop to have a shorter stop and jump ahead of Hitchin should they stay as close as they are currently. So that's one thing we have to keep our eyes on with regards to the Brabham Esports Sport driver. So he's keeping a lot of pressure on Hitchin, but he's not intoning a major move right now, and that's a sign that he's got another ace up his sleeve that he's looking to deploy a little bit later as they roll their way now into Coca-Cola corner. But James Ackland, meanwhile, he was P4 since the start, and now he's started to close up a little bit on Dan Ferrier as they make their way through 4 and into 5. Now you do have to wonder where Ackland's trying a similar thing here in the BMW M4, albeit the gap between the two of them, between Ferrier and Ackland, is approximately half a second to 6/10. It's not as tight, so it may be the case that Ackland here is being made to push a bit more by the Ferrari driver in front. But whilst all this is going on, I can tell you a bit further down the order, we've got Ollie Pimley here, and it is the case the privateer is going on the offensive after Stephen Kennedy as they roll their way through the left-hander of 6 into 7. And as they come on out right now, Pimley in a rather BMW standard coloured car as they make their way down through turns 7, 8 and up towards 9 and 10. And as they come into the braking zone here for the hairpin, it is the case the 765 driver right now chasing after the Platinum driver. And to be fair, Pimley wants to keep that momentum. He's P3 in the gold class, and he's only got Joshua Pratt and Carl McGuirk ahead of him, albeit it is the case that McGuirk is a long way up the road and Pratt is some way up in the distance as they roll the way on through. But as they make their way through the final sector, we look a little bit further back to Martin Tillin here, and it is the case the gold driver running in P5 in the gold class, P20 overall, finds himself between a bit of a rock and a hard place right now. That's Maltrak in the Platinum class ahead of him, and that is McManus in the silver class behind him. And I think Tilling is not quite comfortable on the pace here, as we do notice there's quite a bit missing off the front of McManus' car. That front bumper has seen better days. In fact, it's actually seen a better car as it's completely fallen off the car in recent times by the looks of things as they make the way down the start-finish straight here. How the Irishman right now is fighting with that car, only he will know as he makes his way down the start-finish straight and onto what for him is lap number 6 as they head on down. But indeed, it is settling into a bit of a rhythm now. And speaking of rhythm, we can see here is the case of Billy Bob Ray going up the inside. In fact, on the outside there, my apologies, of what was turn number 1, with Norkett taking the position and Daryl Norkett coming flying through in the Mercedes. And the Racing Forces driver here, well, he's making it very clear he's not battling with Ray, and Ray's not battling with him. The Platinum driver is going hunting, and right now currently P12 in the Platinum class, P17 overall. He's got a lot to do if he wants to be able to close up to his peers, because the next driver up the road is Kennedy, and he is a long way away. But as they make the way on around, it is a situation that we do look back here to the battle in the bronze class, and we talked about this earlier, and you can see Oscar Rocha here, the American driver, has closed up to the back of Farrell, but in return that is Chu behind, albeit I think Chu is a lap down effectively. So right now, and yes, that is Calvin Chu, so he's going to have to be a bit patient, but Oscar Rocha definitely trying to get some pressure onto Farrell. And to be fair to Farrell, it is the case that Tom Farrell has been running a very comfortable race in that P2 since the start, and now the privateer I think is going to have a bit of an uncomfortable situation, which he does have a very fast BMW M4 in his class looking to hunt him down and getting close of each and every corner. But right now Tom Farrell doing what he needs to, and I do think that Roche is going to have to make a decision shortly where he's going to let Chu through, given the fact that Chu is breathing down his neck and not really letting him go. And Mark Cadmore here will be waiting in the wings. He's currently P4 in the bronze class, P34 overall, and thinking about how he can get into that fight potentially as Chu tries to find his way over. And you can see Chu there just taking a little peek to the inside, but being very patient here. I think he's trying to show the respect and trying to get a message through to Roche, which is, look, just let me through on a braking zone, because it is the case I am the faster of the two of us as they roll their way out of the final corner and on towards the start-finish straight. But I suspect now Chu is definitely going to come on through here. If not, he has not planned it already. He'll do it under braking into turn number 1. And there's David Larson a bit further back here, and David Larson's race has gone from good to bad to not so great at the moment, in the fact the Symphony Esports driver is settling into a rhythm, but he's dropped all the way to P7 in the class, and he's P35 overall, and it is the case the silver driver having a difficult day at the office after everything was looking very good early on in that qualifying session. As we do see there is the case, that's Cadmore going very wide out of turn 1. We're a bit of understeer, and that is going to give Larson another track position. In terms of the overall positions, he's now to P34 as they roll the way through Coca-Cola. But as we look from them to a bit further up the order, it is the case of Billy Bob Ray in the meantime here. The TGC Racing driver behind him. He has a teammate from TGC, Joe McManus, who is continuing to stay there. And as they roll their way into the Dunlop hairpin, it is the case that's Martin Tilley in front of him, the gold driver, who is simply holding position right now. And I think Tilley is comfortably there. And it is the case that Billy Bob Ray is just staying with him as much as he can as they roll their way through the right-hander of turn number 13. But this race has settled down quite significantly since the start. And it is the case, I think a lot of drivers trying to play the slipstream strategy here. Everybody trying to fuel save off of one another. And I expect we will see a lot more battling overall and within the classes when we get to those pit stops. We'll see the strategies play out. And after the pit stops, when we go on to that final stint, presuming there are going to be pit stops today, then we'll really start to see those elbows coming out. And speaking of a driver coming into the pits, here's Cy Anthony coming in from Symphony Esports. And he's coming quite early if this is a scheduled stop. Perhaps he's trying to go for the ultimate undercut on the field. To be fair, if anybody's going to do it, Cy Anthony could pull it off in the Mercedes. There's no doubt about that as he rolls his way to his pit box right now. It is the case the Symphony Esports driver definitely doing something different from most. But we look from him to Stephen Masters here, who right now, as he disappears in and out of existence, that's just a little bit of a latency thing. I can assure you he hasn't dropped into a black hole and then jumped back out of it. It is the case that the privateer here chasing after David Flanagan ahead of him, and he's got Phil Diaz behind as they make the way into Coca-Cola corner and focusing on Phil Diaz here. It is the case, the Porsche 911 driver giving that pursuit, and they're battling for what is P6 in the gold class here with Diaz in P8 of the class, Masters in P7, and then Flanagan ahead in the P6 position. And as they roll their way through turn number 60, you can see how Diaz getting the better run through the corner, able to hook up that apex curve much more comfortably and not understeer beyond it compared to Masters in front, who understeered wide, was able to get the power down comfortably still. And as they make the way down towards the Dunlop hairpin this time, Diaz not able to find a way to get alongside here, but just staying with his opponent right now. And they're being bunched up behind Joe McManus and Billy Bob Ray, the silver drivers, who are taking the pace out of this gold group as they make the way through 13 and in towards 14 and 15. And as they come charging up the hill, it is the case as they roll into the next corner. No change right now, but I can definitely feel a little bit of frustration bubbling behind these gold drivers right now. It is the case, I think they do want to try and get one through, but they just don't have the outright pace, or it's not going to work to their strategy to force their way on through as they come out of the final corner down the start-finish straight. But of course, for our Porsche driver here, it works out quite nicely in the fact that he will be gaining that what would be a quadruple toe down the straight, and that will help out with the Porsche's weakness, which is its straight line speed. And as they make the way down here, I'm hearing that we've had a bit of a moment for a couple of drivers. I'm hearing that Mark Cadmore in particular has had to jump to the pit, and we're a bit further ahead here as it's all kicking off. We have got going up the inside. That's David Flanagan making a move, as I believe we're hearing that a couple of other drivers have had enough. Kevin Burke has had to jump to the pit. We're not sure where that's happened, but we have lost Burke. He has gone to the pit, and also we've got a couple more drivers who have been in the wars, including Christian Clark, and also I believe Joe Newman as well. So we've had 5 drivers who have been involved in some sort of incident that's not been televised, but it is the case that something has gone wrong. But right now, speaking of things going right, it is the case that Joe McManus, despite damage to the car, is going to look for a return move here on Flanagan into turn 6. The silver driver does not want to let this gold group through. It is the case he's going to battle with them, and to be fair, points are scored for overall position. But right now, as they make the way down through 8, 9 and in towards 10, it is the case we've got Flanagan on the inside. It's going to be McManus on the outside. He's going to try and outbrake the Ferrari driver here. Very bold on the brakes of McManus, but to be fair, that car's very hooked up under heavy braking into the hairpin corners, and now McManus really out of position coming out of the chicane, and you can see Masters there trying to find a way on through, and this is really hurting the Ferrari driver right now in the gold class. He wants to go hunting after Flanagan, but he can't because he's got the bulky BMW in the way, and McManus is showing that he can make that bulk defend very well as they make the way out of turn number 15 up towards 16. But right now this is only going to push Masters back towards Diaz, and that is going to be something that he will not want in his mind, given the Porsche driver here is probably looking to go for position shortly. But as they come charging out of the final corner, we do look from our drivers in the midfield to a bit further up the field, and in particular we look back to our leaders here in the platinum class, and that's Jonathan Hitchin, our overall leader. And as he rolls his way through Coca-Cola corner, I should say, saying all 3 C's there, it is the case that Hitchin under lots of pressure still, and Armstrong just breathing down his neck, and this must be intolerable pressure as they roll their way into turn 6. You can see Hitchin down the inside, Armstrong trying to go for the cutback as they roll their way out of turn 6. Through 7 they come, and now Armstrong is trying to get Hitchin to make a mistake. He's trying to outfox him with cutbacks as they roll their way down through 9, and as they complete 300R and up into turn number 10, you see Hitchin going defensive once again, but this is going to bring Dan Sferrier and James Acklam into the battle. So it is the case our top 4 now all condensing together. And a bit further back, that is Will Mason there, don't count him out, nor count out Campbell, as it is the case in P5, P6 respectively. These two drivers are running just slightly off the pace of the leaders, but as the leaders battle and go a bit slower lap on lap, it will bring more of the class up towards the front, and we can see here Mason now within a sightseeing distance of the top four, and indeed Austin William Campbell not too far behind. And then Damien Lobbett in P7 having a bit of a difficult run so far, the Symphony Esports driver, after what was rather sensational start, battling with Cy Anthony and gaining the position. It has not worked out for Lobbett in terms of he hasn't really caught up to anyone. He's in a bit of a no man's land, and this is the pain of Fuji when you find yourself out of a group of cars. You haven't got the toe down the start finish straight, and that toe is worth a good couple of attempts from start to finish as they make the way on down, and that's the problem that Damien Lobbett's now got to deal with. He just doesn't have anybody to act as his slipstream partner. He's looking quite lonely out there, but I think he'll be grateful for the fact he can focus on his strategy a little bit more and just putting those laps in as he rolls his way on around. But as he comes out to the opening corner, it is the case that we do see Mateus Becerra here battling with, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, that's battling with Pimley, and Pimley going up the inside, and Becerra on the outside of the Brazilian driver from Halftime Racing. And right now, Ollie Pimley coming on through the gold driver, passing the silver leader, and I think for Becerra, he won't be too worried about that for the simple reason he'll be pleased that he can just focus on his race. And I do apologise there, it is the case, Joshua 3670, that we aren't able to bring you replays because we are looking at a replay file. It's just one of those technical limitations we do have with replay files in iRacing, but it is the case that right now we do see Ollie Pimley does not have any limitations in terms of trying to break away from Becerra as he rolls his way on through. But as it comes down towards turn number 10 in the meantime, it is the case that we do look from him all the way back up to the front here, and well, these top four, the closest to our drivers on the circuit, as the field is spreading out more and more as time is going on. But it is the case that right now Hitchin having to think about this. There's no doubt about that in terms of when does he go for that pit stop, given how strong Armstrong has been in terms of holding the pace with him. And Hitchin, we've seen this in the opening two rounds, he has the pace to put it on pole every time. But in the race, he just does not seem to have the pace to be able to keep his opponents at bay, or he's able to for the first couple of laps, and then he gets reeled on in. But to be fair, that McLaren does burn its tyres quite heavily, and as they make their way down the straight here, you can see Hitchin pulling it to the middle, and then Armstrong just tuck it in behind. Staying as close as he dares, and Armstrong definitely sending the signal here that he's trying to fuel save behind Armstrong, so that behind Hitchin I should say, in order to be able to jump in the pit and gain some distance, and a little bit of bump drafts in there even potential, albeit I think they're going to bump draft in GT3s, they can do it, but it's very difficult to do in terms of those little bit of taps as they make the way now down through turns 4 and 5 here in the foothills of Mount Fuji in Japan. Of course, it is a case that things are stabilising, and we are waiting for the strategy to really open this race up in terms of who is going to pit when and how much fuel is going to go into the car and who's going to have the fastest pit stops here. And well, we will have to wait and see. But speaking of waiting and seeing, it is the case we do look from our leaders down to P33, and that is Alan Lever occupying the position right now. He's stuck behind Colin Patterson, the silver driver in front of him, but the gold driver Alan Lever running P10 in the gold class. He right now has Nathan Foster behind him, and Foster here inching closer as we're hearing there's been an off for Matthew Morris, or Morris there. That's gone very wrong by the looks of things at turns 14 and 15. And I think that off has been of his own doing, unless I'm mistaken. He's eventually returned to the circuit. He's lost 2 positions because of it. He's lost one position in class to Chris Constable, and he's lost the other position overall to David Larson, the silver driver, who goes past our camera before Morris does. And right now, Matthew Morris, since being promoted to the gold class, is not having a happy day in the office in terms of this race. But we'll wait to see where he's able to bring things back later on as they make the way charging down the start-finish straight. And as they come on down into the braking zone for turn number 1, it is the case that we now go on to lap number 13 for our leaders, and Hitchin here continues to lead. But as we head to that halfway mark, we're only 20 seconds away from the halfway point. We are waiting to see whether it is pit stop season. My mind says it will be, but perhaps just after 20 minutes, perhaps we'll see those pit stops really open up around 25 minutes in. I mean, it might be a dash to the end. But as they come on through here, it is the case. Looking at the back of this group at the top 4, James Acklam here just waiting to pounce, much like Dan Sferry, but holding back a little bit further here. I think Acklam just a little bit more on the limit by comparison in terms of the pace he's able to deliver right now, not able to close up as much as he would like, whereas Dan Sferry, meanwhile, looking very good as we see their Hitchin going defensive again into turn 6 versus Armstrong, but Armstrong Armstrong this time does get the cutback, but he's not quite there in terms of the momentum, coming out to 6 into 7, and as they roll their way through 8 and 9, Armstrong again just trying to get that sneaky little move, coming out to 7 in the run down towards 10, but Hitchin covers him off, but Armstrong definitely looking more menacing with each and every attempt he makes to that cutback, and right now Hitchin's got to be wary of it as they come out. Joe McManus is into the pits as I look out my commentary box window, and as they roll the way through 13, it is the case that Will Mason not closing up. It is the case, in fact, Will Mason on that last lap set a personal best of 37.86, but by comparison the drivers in front are matching him in terms of those lap times, so therefore Mason is not really closed up. He's just sitting there approximately 2 seconds off of that battle for the lead, and he's comfortably sitting there, to be fair. If they really start to battle and get the elbows out, he'll be right back up there, and I think Mason won't be too upset by this, given the fact he's just within arm's reach of that battle, but he's not quite involved in the thick of it as they make the way on down. But as they come charging down that start-finish straight, once again, we do look to Nathan Foster here, who's been right on board with the Porsche driver, battling with Alan Lever. And these two, we covered them only briefly moments ago, but these two gold drivers battling for P10 in the gold class, P30 overall. Both of them have had races which have not worked out at the start, but now as they make their way past the halfway point, will it be able to work out? As we see Foster getting closer and closer under each and every corner. But as of course the Porsche's way, it gains through the corners, it loses on the straights, and as they make their way out to 6, 7 and head down towards 10, it is the case of Foster very close here as they make the way out of 8 and 9. It's going to be a look around the outside potentially here. He's going to go very late on the brakes, alternatively hope for the cutback move, but you can see their Lever literally parks it on apex, and Foster goes overly deep under braking. And I think it's the case that Foster managed to miss his braking point by 1 or 2 meters and let the car extend as a result, rather than trying to lock up those front brake discs. But as they roll the way out of turn 13 and into 14-15, Alan Lever definitely right now showing his defensive credentials as they come on through turn 15. And Foster here, I think, he's sizing up that attack, but he's just not able to get in the optimum position to go for it. But meanwhile, looking from them to our battling leaders, it is the case that we just had an attempt to move from Armstrong in the run to 13. He wasn't able to find it. And as we ride on board the gearbox here, Jonathan Hitchin's car rolling out to 15, heading up towards turn number 16 right now through the long right-hander. You can see Dan Ferrier, they're taking a little bit of a peek to the inside. That's just as much of defensive coverage versus Acklam as it is to try and say to Armstrong, look, I'm coming for you, or if you don't get a move on, I will. And as they make the way out to the final quarter, head down the start finish straight, once again Hitchin gets the better run. He opens up the gap by 2/10 of a second as they emerge onto the start finish straight, but now in the long run they're only just reaching the halfway point, and as they head down towards turn number 1 into that braking zone, once again Armstrong inches closer, but he's not close enough to look for a move, and he's not going to dare to. He just lets the car roll up under braking as we've got Damien Lobbit into the pit lane, but as they X out the corner this time, it is the case that Hitchin there a little bit hesitant to get on the throttle. Armstrong takes a much more aggressive exit, but this is to cover off Dan Ferrier, who right now is coming to form his own. I think Ferrier has been saving up and deciding, right, if they're not going to get a move on in front, now's the time for me to get a move on, as they roll the way through 4 or 5. And well, I think the Scotsman here is definitely thinking on the right plane of existence, in the fact that if he can get himself in between Armstrong and Hitchin, he can really upset that battle. We can see that Hitchin just not comfortable on that pace right now. Armstrong is the faster of the two, but he doesn't seem to know whether to really push it, or if he is trying to push it to go for the move here. Hitchin's keeping at bay, and Ferrier right now could be the fly in the ointment for the pair of them as they make their way down in towards turn number 10. And as they do, Acklam there being patient, just waiting as the 4th driver in the mix. But look, there's Will Mason. He's closed up because the battling between the top 4 has now led to them falling 8/10 of a second off the pace a lap. And there's Austin William Campbell a bit further behind, and it looks like the privateer here in that very absolutely lovely Royal Air Force livery, I dare say, as we just briefly talk about that livery. It is the case, he's sitting in P6. It is the case for him. He's just holding firm as he rolls his way out to turn number 15 up towards 16, but right now he's a bit further back and just waiting in the wings. But this battle continues at the front, and meanwhile a little bit further back, I can tell you, in the battle for P6 in what is the gold class, where we have David Flanagan here, and right now he's got a 4.7 second advantage over his opponent in P7, and that is of course Diaz, as they make the way out through 14-15. And as they come on out right now, it's the case that Flanagan is trying to hunt down Billy Bob Ray, who's P2 in the silver class, and the TGC racing driver here from Scotland doing a very good job right now, but not quite on the pace of the silver leader, and that is Matthias Becerra. As we've got more drivers coming to the pits, we've got Pratt and Pimley coming in, and as they make the way through the pit lane right now, it is is the case. It's an empty pit lane for the most part, but there they are. They are in the midpoint of the pit lane, and well, will their strategy see them swap positions? We will have to wait and see, but what we won't have to wait and see for too much longer is how this battle for the lead continues. As we do jump back to it, you can see Hitchin having to go defensive into 6 very early on the exit of 5, and every time Armstrong is just able to get the nose in there, coming out to turn 6, but he can't get more than that, and he has to lift off because he was to put the throttle fully down all the way. He would tap the rear panel, the rear left panel from Hitchin's perspective as a driver, and that would send Hitchin spin off the circuit. Of course, Armstrong doesn't want to make contact because otherwise the shoulds will be contacting him to say you've done a bit of an unfair one there, but it is the case they make the way out of 11 and 12. It is a race of patience here, but it is also very close. They are all on the limit as they roll the way through 13, 14 and 15, and as they come charging on up here, it is the case that Hitchin right now doing everything he can to try and hold on to this lead, but I think if he can hold on to it here in terms of track position, he's going to lose it in the strategy stakes right now, because I've got a feeling Armstrong and Ferrier have both been doing a lot of fuel saving behind Hitchin, and they have got a strategic advantage. They're waiting to deploy, but of course we'll wait and see whether that does occur or whether it is the case they're all evenly matched here. But as they make the way down as it comes to the end of lap number 16, on to lap 17 they go. They've got 14 minutes left plus the final lap. We can see a bit further back there as all the field come rolling on through, and now we have Ryan Davies here. He's currently in P2 in the gold class. We haven't talked too much about Davies since the start of this race. In fact, I don't think we've mentioned him really apart from when we're going down the grid. But it's the case right now, running a bit of a quiet race in that P2 position, although we can see there his rival for it going in P3 in the gold class, P14 overall, Martin Tillin coming into the pits, and this of course being one of the longest pit lanes on the calendar. It's a long pit entry, it's a very long pit lane to accommodate the cars indeed on that start finish straight. You can imagine just how long it is. Given the start finish straight, it's just shy of 1.5 kilometers. In this case, Tillin has got a very early pit box there, but he misses pit box line and has to inch the car forward. That's going to cost him a couple of attempts, if not at least a second. And well, how all of our gold drivers coming up behind him, that will be the question. We'll be awaiting for the answer given that slight mistake. But as we look further down the order, it is the case that we can see some drivers who've had a difficult day, and David Flanagan right now, he has not had a difficult day. He's actually had quite a positive day, has the gold driver. He's currently running P3 in the gold class, P14 overall, but do keep in mind, of course, that Tillin was in P3 before he came into the pits. And as we continue to watch here, David Flanagan make his way around. He's yet to take his pit stop, of course, so therefore he's trying to just push on here and go as deep as he possibly can, where he's going to go a little bit wide there coming out turn 17. We don't turn number 17, turn 7. We don't want drivers going that deep, as otherwise it will be the case that's going to be track limits. And as he makes his way in towards turn number 10 right now, just pushing on here, I think conscious of the strategy call with regards to Tillin. But as they roll the way through, it is the case that we look back to Matheus Bezerra here, who has come out of the pits. He's come out in traffic. He's behind. I say traffic as if it's a derogatory term. I promise you it's not. But he will feel as though Joshua Pratt is traffic, given the fact the gold driver here is in front. I think Bezerra here is hooked on behind him and very close to him as they roll the way out of 8, 9 to 10. And for Bezerra, if he's able to deliver the pace he expects, then Pratt's not a problem. Meanwhile, if it's the case that Pratt's a bit slower, then that's going to be a huge problem because for Bezerra, he came into the pits leader in the class, quite comfortably in the silver class, and now he's at risk of potentially losing out if Ryan Williams, alternatively, and Billy Bob Ray can have a fast pit stop and not have any difficulties in the stop. We'll wait to see as Billy Bob Ray comes into the pits here from the lead of the silver class. So it is the case, he makes his way on down. Christian Maltrek from the platinum class is also into the pit lane. What about Ryan Williams? Will he fill on in? He does indeed, does the TGC Racing driver. He makes his way into the pit lane there from P2, P20 overall. Where's Matheus Bezerra here? And we can see our silver driver, the half-time racing driver, making his way down as Maltrek is exiting the pits. What about Ray? Well, he's not moving at the moment. I think Bezerra's still done enough, although Ray is leaving his pit box. But you can see here it's a long run down as we look to the blimp camera. Well, in fact, that's going to be no good because it's obscured, but it is the case that Matheus Bezerra has made it back into lead here for half-time racing. As you can see, that is Billy Bob Ray in the distance, coming out of the pit lane, stuck behind Maltrek here. So Ray has closed up a little bit, but not enough to really put that pressure on for the lead. So it will now be the case, can Ray keep it together for the rest of the race, or will it be the situation where Bezerra could potentially drop it? We'll have to wait and see. But as they make the way on around right now, it is the case that Ryan Williams making his way out of the pit lane, and Tyson Belenda here, who's already taken the pit stop, is coming on through to retake that P3 in the silver class. The silver class is changing now, but meanwhile, speaking of changes, it is the case that James Armstrong has changed position to take the lead of the platinum class here, ahead of Dan Ferrier and also Will T. Mason, as Jonathan Hitchin and also James Acklemer into the pit. So here's the strategic call. They've called it at the 29.5 minute mark, and it is the case that Hitchin and Acklemer both coming in. Now for Armstrong, It's about now whether he can deliver effectively what is a qualifying lap, given the state of the car and how much fuel he's got in the car. Can he push hard here to jump ahead of Hitchin? Plus also, has he done enough fuel saving to jump ahead naturally in terms of that pit time? Dan Ferrier, of course, will be released now as well, but you can see Armstrong already open up a gap of 9 tenths as they roll the way around, and that is a sign Armstrong has been released, and since being released, he will now up the ante and go for it, as we see Mason also will now need to push, but he's falling back a bit, is Mason, as he rolls his way out to 6-7. And I think the challenge here for Mason, of course, is can he get the jump on our drivers as they roll the way around. Now, the question is, where are those Platinum drivers coming on out of the pit lane? We will find out very shortly for you, ladies and gentlemen, as we do look to our timing screens, and well, we are waiting to see where likes of Hitchin come out. Well, here is Jonathan Hitchin. He's come out in P10. That's P8 in the Platinum class, and as he makes his way through, he's got no traffic ahead of him, so he's got a clear run here. What about James Ackland by comparison? He's got a relatively clear run as well. The only driver in front of him between himself and Hitchin is Phil Diaz, and we can see here Diaz actually got quite a bit of space between the two Platinum drivers, so he's going to be quite safe. And in terms of his lap time comparison, he is running about 1.3 seconds off the fastest Platinum laps right now, so it is the case he should be safe for one lap if we presume he's going to pit shortly. And speaking of pitting shortly, we do have Armstrong and Ferrier into the pits along with Mason here. They all pile on in, and now the big question will be who's going to come out the leader, and will we see our drivers who pitted earlier come through, or will they be behind? And meanwhile, whilst they make their way to their pit stalls, it is the case we see here Alex Hill coming in. All of our drivers who've yet to pit in the Platinum class are now coming on in, apart from, well no, there's Daryl Norquette. He comes on in as well from P7 overall and in the class. And now where is Jonathan Hitchin? Well, here is Hitchin. He charges down the start finish straight here. This is going to be close as he makes his way on down, and as he comes to that timeline, it is the case that Armstrong is leaving his pit box. He's already leaving the pits. He makes his way on out here. This is going to be tight as they make their way down towards the braking zone for turn number 1. And where's Hitchin? There's Hitchin, and there's Dan Ferrier, who's going to be just behind Hitchin. So it's the case that Armstrong has made the jump into a lead based on strategy. Hitchin was not able to outdo him in terms of the outlap, and Dan Ferrier returns in P3. It's the case the Ferrari driver is back where he started in this battle in P3, but to be fair, right now I think the slow and steady racing driver will happily take the points for P3 with open arms, given what happened at Long Beach when it was looking to be a dead certain P4, only to see it fade away right at the end of the race due to an error, and James Ackland comes out in P4 ahead of Will Mason, but Mason is very close to the back of Ackland right now. That gap has come down to only a second, so right now if Mason can deliver this pace, he might be able to find himself moving up one more position come the finish, as meanwhile Austin William Campbell back into P6. As they come charging on through. The closest battle right now in the Platinum class, well here it is, that is Sam Congreve, the privateer tucked in behind Sire Anthony, as we ride on board here with Sam Congreve for the rest of the lap, and you can see the two Platinum drivers in the Mercedes AMG 2020 Evo machine as they come charging on down. Well, Sire Anthony of course went for that very early pit stop, going for that pit stop at only 10 minutes into the race, a huge attempt at undercut, and has it really worked out for Sire Anthony, I guess is the question. It's worked out relatively so in the fact he's come out around where he started in the race, so it's not as though he's lost time, but it's definitely a gamble which he's played, and now he's got Sam Congreve to deal with for the rest of that gamble to see whether he can make it count. As they roll their way out of turn number 15, you can see the Sciency rolling the rear end a little bit off the corner, a bit of oversteer there on the corner exit by comparison with Congreve, who had a much smoother transition onto the power, and as they make their way out the corner, well, Sciency peels over to the right. They're doing a little bit of bob and weave here. It's almost as if he's a boxer bobbing and weaving from side to side to try and break the toe, and as they come charging down the start finish straight, here's the case of Congreve here nowhere near close. Now I wonder if Congreve's running a lot of downforce in that car, but look at the gap that's opened up. It's the case of Sciency here. It's almost as if he's got nitrous in that car, albeit it hasn't. I should clarify, these cars are checked by the stewards before they take to the circuit. For Sciency, they're just flying by comparison, but under braking, the story is completely different. Congreve closing up there, very dramatically under braking, and now it's the case as they make their way on through. Well, we'll have to see whether Congreve can find a way to get closer down that straight, but as they make their way around, we've actually had it just clarified that it's damage to the car and it's not downforce, so Congreve battling with damage to the car, and that explains why he's not able to match the top speed of Science Anthony down the start finish straight. Appreciate that, Mr. Congreve, in the chat. But as they make their way around right now, we look from our Platinum drivers to Tyson Melander here. And the Privateer, he's running quite comfortably in P25 overall right now when you think he's P2 in the silver class, albeit what's not comfortable about this position is he's sandwiched between a number of gold drivers. In front of him, that's Newman, and behind him, that's Constable. And right now, I think Chris Constable, who's running P10 in the gold class, maybe just politely muttering under his breath, Valander, can you possibly just move out the way? Well, I don't think Valander's going to simply do that unless he feels that he's got an opportunity to do so, for the simple reason, if he lets one go, then they'll all be expecting him to let it go. And when Colin Patterson is not too far behind, he's P3 in the silver class, he's chasing after Tyson Valander, and I can tell you that he took a whole second out of Tyson Valander on that previous lap. Here's the case that right now Patterson will be itching at the opportunity to go hunting. But speaking of itching at opportunities here, and a bit of drama, here is Mateus Becerra, and it is the case of Brazil. Oh, goodness me, and a clump to the inside there of Patterson into the hairpin. Well, he's gained the position, but I think that one's going to go to the steward's room after the race with 5 minutes to go. But what I was about to say is that pit stop for Becerra has not worked out whatsoever. He was leading when he came into the pits, and now he's dropped to P3. Well, he was P4 in the class before the whack with Patterson, but he's P3 in the silver class with only 5 minutes to go plus the final lap, and Tyson Valander's the next target up the road, albeit it's the case that Valander is 1.5 seconds. He's got 2 gold drivers between him and Becerra, and that will give him some degree of comfort as they make the way down the straight here. Here's the case, you can see Valander charging in the Mercedes with Chris Constable hooking him behind, and then Phil Diaz just tucked in behind the pair of them here, saying, can I get a bit of extra toe please, because that Porsche, you just see how much it's losing on the straight. But now Constable's going to look up the inside here into the braking zone for turn number 1, and this will get him safe versus Diaz behind as they roll the way through it. And you can see there Valander not defending that, just designed to let it go, knowing he'll only lose time if he battles for that position, which is a track position, it's not class position. But as we look from them to a bit further back up the order, I can tell you it is the case that Joshua Pratt here running very comfortably P2 in the gold class, P13 overall, and it is the case right now he's just not able to close up to Carl McGurk, who we see here the gold leader running in P7 overall right now. He hasn't really got anybody around him, but he won't mind that. He'll feel a little bit lonely perhaps, albeit I think he's focusing more on just trying to get the exit at turn 16 right. He won't want to do that again because that was a clump with the sausage curb, so you can see how the rear of the car stepped out. It's been nicknamed the death curb there, and that's for a reason, because you take too much of that curb and end up on the sausages. Here's the case, it could be the death of your race, and Carl McGurk will know that now, and I think he might be breathing a sigh of relief he didn't put it into the wall that time around. And I can tell you from experience, when you put it into the wall at Fuji, those walls are not kind to you, particularly at turn 16. That inside wall is a nasty wall, and there is a long trip to the pits. But as the Privateer here makes his way on down, we do look back up to our leaders, and the battle's kicking off here with regards to the battle for the lead. That's Jonathan Hitchen, who's just made a pass with Armstrong with only moments to go, and as they make the way out of turn 6 and 7 here is the case that Hitchen has found himself back into the lead, and we're just checking our notes to see if there's anything about an off track or anything's gone wrong for Armstrong. No, Hitchen's just coming back strong as they make the way through the hairpin here. We're going to have a race for the overall lead to the finish, and as they make the way out of the sequence of corners known as the chicane, it is the case heading into 13. Armstrong here will now want to come back. I think he would have thought this was done and dusted, but Hitchen has got other ideas, and as they roll their way into left-hander at turn number 15, it is the case they come on out now up to the 16. Well, Armstrong will be in the ideal spot with the Brabham Esports driver. He will have the run down the start finish straight, and he will have that straight line speed advantage as they make the way out. Both drivers they're daring to use as much of the exit curve at turn 16 as they can, but now down the straight it is all going to come down to what will effectively be 2 more laps of racing. It'll be the lap they go on to, and then the one after, where it's the case we've only got 2 minutes to go, and that'll fit in 2 more laps. So we see here Hitchen defends the inside. Armstrong's going to be made to look all the way around the outside this time. They head into the racing zone. Dan Sferrier is 2 seconds back. He can't get involved in this for the time being. He can only wait and watch, and as they make the way out through turn number 1, you can see it's the case that Hitchen covering off the Brabham Esports driver very nicely as they roll the way through 2 and up towards 3. They come charging on through. They've got a little bit of traffic ahead, and that's Darren Sharples, who's in P33. And right now I think Hitchen will be hoping they don't close up to that traffic until after the race, for the simple reason it could throw a spanner in the works for the Privateer, who's doing everything he can to hold on as they make the way to turn 6. We've seen them so many times here. Hitchen has to defend that inside line. Meanwhile, Armstrong looks at the cutback, but they're equally matched as they roll on out there. The McLaren's acceleration matching the fever of the BMW 6-cylinder engine, as the McLaren powered by that V8 bi-turbo, of course, able to take the grunt and push it down the straight. But you can see that Hitchen been pinned into the inside as Armstrong peels out to the outside. They go side by side under braking into the Dunlop hairpin. No change. It's the case that Armstrong's trying to thread. He's trying to find a weakness in Hitchin's armour, but in the end, I think Hitchin has come back strong in race number 3 here. It is the case that he's now starting to bed those worries about that mid-race pace, and as they make the way through turn 14 and 15, it is now the case that only one more lap will stand between the pair of them when they exit the final corner this time around. It'll be one more lap between them, and who's going to be on the top step? Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Will it be Hitchin? Will it be Armstrong? Or could Dan Ferrier get involved in this as well? They've got Sharples ahead, who'll be given a toe to Hitchin. This will work to Hitchin's favour as they make the way down. There's the starting line. There's the white flag. It's out. It's waving. And it is the case as they make the way down. We see Sharples pulls out to the inside there. He decides he doesn't want any of this. The flash of lights from Hitchin to confirm it. And as they make the way down to the braking zone, there's no move into turn 1. Armstrong's too far back. Hitchin being given the draft by the Ferrari driver. And as they roll their way out of the first corner and now down towards turn 3, the next overtaking opportunity, it'll be turn 6. And as we ride on board the gearbox here of Hitchin coming all the way up and through, I can tell you in our other class leads, it is the case that our class leads are stabilised in the gold, silver and bronze class. This is the class lead that we focused on until the end of the race as they roll their way through turns 4 and 5. And as they do head up towards 6, it's the case that Hitchin gets a really nice run. And this time, as they come on through, it is the case that Armstrong's not able to do his much preferred tactic of flowing to the inside out of 6-7. And Hitchin has really hooked this up well. I think it could be the case here that Hitchin has now got only one more defence to really play, and that's down into this hairpin, unless Armstrong can find a way to close up for turns 14 and 15 to try and lunge it into 16. Alternatively, can he go for the run to the start finish line? Of course, that is the drag race and the big question there. But as they roll their way through 13 here, Hitchin keeping it smooth for now. It's only 3 more corners. He clears 14. He comes up into 15. Armstrong not close enough to take a lunge to the inside. If he's going to do it, I think he's going to wait until the start finish straight to try and get it to the line. Can Hitchin hook it up here? Armstrong takes a look. He's going to go for a last minute move. But as he gets his nose in there, the door is shut. Hitchin covers him off just in time, and now it's a sprint to the finish line. You can see the flash of lights there from Armstrong. He's trying to distract his rival, trying to get him to miss a shift, but it's not going to work. The checker flag is out, and as they come to the line, it is Jonathan Hitchin who is your overall winner by only a tenth ahead of James Armstrong in the battle for the overall win and in the platinum class. Dan Ferreira P3, James Ackland P4, Will T. Mason P5, and it'll be Austin William Campbell P6 before Carl McGuirk comes to the line here as your winner in the gold class, P7, in a deserved win for the gold driver. And it'll be Damien Lobbett coming home in P8 ahead of Stephen Kennedy P9, and it'll be Alex Hill completes the overall top 10 ahead of Cy Anthony, followed by Sam Congreve. And as they make the way on through, we have Joshua Pratt coming on down here, and it will be the case that Joshua Pratt will take P2 in the gold class ahead of Ryan Davies. That's Darryl Norket between the two of them, and as we see Ryan Davies here coming across the line to complete the gold podium, it will then turn to our winner in the silver class. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a round of applause. Billy Bob Ray takes the win as he makes his way across the line there. A little bit of latency disrupting him coming across the line, but Billy Bob Ray, your winner in the silver class. And as he makes way on through, it will be James Connolly who comes across the line here, and Connolly takes the win in a bronze class, which seems to have a curse on the lead position, but Connolly putting that curse to bed in a dominant performance here for the bronze drivers. He crosses that line, well deserved there. And to complete the silver podium, it's Tyson Belander and Colin Patterson. They've just crossed the line. And in the bronze class, it'll be Darren Sharples and Oscar Rocha, who are both a lap down, who crossed the line earlier and took the checker flag a lap earlier than our leaders. And it will be the case they complete the bronze podium. But let's take a look at those race results very shortly. But just before we take a look at those race results, I think we should just take a look at the pass that was made for the race win between what was Jonathan Hitchin and James Armstrong. In fact, apologies, ladies and gentlemen, we're actually going to get those race results first, and then we'll take a look back at the pass. So these race results, of course, subject to any Stewards inquiries for round number 3 of the GT3 League at Season 7, as brought to you by UK Sim Racing in collaboration with Swelly Omida Sim Racing Coaching, and as affiliated with Race Anywhere. It is the case that Jonathan Hitchin taking the overall win in the end by a tenth of a second ahead of James Armstrong, with Dan Ferreira completing the overall podium. James Ackland P4 ahead of Will Mason, the two of them there in deserved P4, P5s, but just not on the pace of the top 3 in the end, and Austin Campbell then P6, with Carl McGuirk P7, the gold driver taking the gold class win. He'll be very happy with that one in dominant form in the 888 machine. Damien Lobbett P8, Stephen Kennedy P9, and Alex Hill completes your overall top 10. We then look to our individual classes, and we start off, of course, with the Platinum class, and we can see Hitchin there with that confirmed win ahead of James Armstrong and Dan Ferrier completing the Platinum podium, Acklam and Mason completing the top 5, Austin Campbell P6, Damon Lovett P7, Stephen Kennedy P8, Alex Hill P9, and Cy Anthony rounding off the Platinum top 10. Ahead of Sam Congreve with that damaged Mercedes, not able to take the place of a Cy Anthony to the finish, and Daryl Norquette and Christian Maltrek completing the Platinum standings. We then make our way to the Gold class. And as we look across the Gold class, it is the case. Carl McGurk taking that win in the end by 18.1 seconds ahead of Joshua Pratt. And McGurk definitely enjoying Fuji International Speedway. There's no doubt about that, with Joshua Pratt coming home ahead of Ryan Davies, who completes the Gold podium. Martin Tillin, P4. I think he'll feel as though there's a bit more on the table today and that he could have been on course for a podium finishing, just missing out by 8 attempts to Ryan Davies when all is said and done. And David Flanagan completing the top 5 in similar fashion. Flanagan showing a top 3 pace, but wasn't able to deliver it quite in the race when he needed to. Nathan Foster P6, Stephen Masters P7, and a difficult day for Masters and Alan Levin behind him, and those two caught up in a bit of a battle between another, but in the end it was Masters who broke away. Joe Newman P9 and Chris Constable completing the top 10, with Phil Diaz, Ollie Pimley and Calvin Chu and Matthew Morris completing the standings outside of the top 10. And as we come to the silver class, it is the case we can see here our winner, Billy Bob Ray, winning in the end by 24.6 seconds in great form ahead of Tyson Verlander and Colin Patterson. And well, Colin Patterson in the end only a second off of Verlander, and you can imagine he'll be thinking about P2 next time out. We've got a rivalry building between those two. Ryan Williams in the end P4, Matthias Becerra in the end, it must have been damage to the car or something went wrong at the end, because Becerra was looking to be taking the win, but the strategy or something has gone wrong, because in the pit stop he's lost out massively. Then the MP5 was all he could manage today. Gerald Mars P6, Dale Larson P7 in a difficult day for Larson with that great qualifying position, in the end being upset by the race itself. Rob Armstrong P8 and Liam Murray P9 completing the silver standings. And as we come to the bronze class, it is the case that we can see here James Connolly taking the win in the end by a lap, technically, because he finished on the lead lap compared to the rest of his class not finishing on the lead lap, ahead of Darren Sharples and Oscar Rocha, Tom Farrell P4, Christian Clark P5, Mark Cadwell P6, and Kevin Burke P7. Well, that was the bronze class indeed. All of our classes covered, and as we do look back to the circuit side right now, we are just trying to find that pass that was made for the win in the end, and here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the pass that was made by Jonathan Hitchin on James Armstrong to take the win. So it was the case. In fact, that Armstrong was going slowly coming out of turn 4. So I think in the end, Armstrong had got something wrong coming out of Coca-Cola into 100R. And, well, that gave Hitchin all he needed to take the win. So in dramatic form in the end, Hitchin be given an opportunity and he didn't laugh at it. He took it and he took the win with open arms. And Hitchin will be very pleased with that and continuing that record he has of the dominant qualifying form and being able to eke out those wins in the Platinum class. And in the end, we saw the majority of the rest of the battle, and Armstrong just was not able to find a way on back. And credit to the two of them, of course, that close racing from start to finish. It was unfortunate, but I'm sure we're going to see plenty more battling between the two of them as the season carries on. Well, we go from trackside on our replay to the standings after round number 3, and it is the case in the overall standings, and this is where we have the mixtures of drivers, of course, where it is the case they are in the gold, the bronze, the silver, the platinum. They can pick up overall points, and it is Jonathan Hitchin who leads on 45.5 points, ahead of James Armstrong there, building a major lead as Hitchin as time presses on, with James Acklam in the end there. Oh, goodness me, I think we've got some of the numbers out of order there. James Acklam listed as P7. I think that's meant to be a P3 there. In this case, James Acklam on 15 points. Head of Will Mason on 13.5 points. And then Dominic Roberts completing the top 5 of the overall standings. But he's on joint points with Cy Anthony, only ahead based on result count back. Alistair Kirk and Dan Sferrier both on 9.5 points there as well. But it's the case that Kirk ahead on result count back as well. Then we have Carl McGurk and Austin William Campbell who complete there what is the top 10. As we then look to our individual classes after 3 rounds, it is the case, and keeping in mind, of course, that we do not account for the drop rounds as of yet. There are 2 sprint drop rounds, and there's 1 feature drop round over the course of the season. Our drivers have to nominate them early on, but it is the case that Jonathan Hitchin leads in those 45.5 points, and he is clear now by an advantage of what is 17 points over James Armstrong, and you can imagine Armstrong will be looking to come back strong with the first feature round next week when we have those double points up for grabs to try and keep Hitchin close to him rather than letting him pull off an unassailable lead. James Acklam, P3, there on merit. Acklam delivering the pace. He may not be the guy who grabs all the headlines, but I can tell you his consistency is proving to keep him very strong in the race. Austin William Campbell and Will T. Mason both on 13.5 points. Campbell ahead of Mason based on result countback, and then Dominic Roberts P6 ahead of Cy Anthony based on countback there, with Alistair Kurt, Dan Ferrier and Nathan P. Willoughby completing the top 10, with Christian Maltrek there in P11 just outside the top 10 on 6.5 points and looking to break in next time out. Then we come to the gold class, and it is the case that Carl McGuirt leads by only a single point ahead of Nathan Foster. The rivalry between these two building up, and do not count out Joshua Pratt either on 27 points. Those top three are looking very closely matched in terms of pace, but McGuirt today was able to pull it off in the Mercedes with a very consistent and top tier performance. Ryan Davis P4 ahead of Martin Tillin P5, Alan Lever P6 on 11.5 points, one clear of Nathan Scott, and Matthew Morris there since being promoted to the gold class on 9.5 points, with his results being carried upwards from his promotion. It is the case that Morris has got to find his feet still, albeit has shown great signs today, and we look forward to seeing what he can do in the next round. Ollie Pimley ahead of Chris Edison in P9 versus Edison in P10 based on result countback, both on the 6 points, and it's David Flanagan in P11 on 6 points as well, but outside the top 10 based on countback. We then look to our silver class in the meantime, and it is Colin Patterson in the end, who is leading on 33.5 points. He is 12 points clear of David Larson, with Tyson Blander in P3 there. In this case, Landon and Larson tied on points, but countback separates the two of them there in terms of position. Liam Murray on 19.5 points. He's not far off of the top three and looking to get into the hunt, with Billy Bob Ray after that brilliant performance today at Fuji, moving up to P5. Mateus Becerra there losing out and staying in the top 5 due to that disastrous end to his race at Fuji. He's only in P6 now, with Chris Hitch in P7, Rob Armstrong P8, Ryan Williams P9 and Mark Jennings P10. 1 point ahead of Joseph Manasseh in P11, who's on 5.5 points and we're trying to break his way into the top 10 next time out. And then we come to the bronze class, last but not least, and Oscar Rocha continues to lead on 38 points, taking up the mantle from Morris, and, well, he is clear by what is 14.5 points from Mark Johnson. Oh, goodness me, in fact, there's a little bit of a mistake there, I imagine, because Mark Johnson has got less points than James Conley, so it might be the case that these results are not quite 100% accurate yet, but it is listed as Oscar Rocha ahead of Mark Johnson and James Conley there in P3, with Dan Sharples P4, Andrew Murray P5, and then we have Mark Cadmore, Kevin Wesley Burke, Christian Clark, Matthew Gregg and Nigel Easy, who complete the top 10 in the bronze class, with Matthew Routledge in the end just outside the top 10 by 2.5 points. But still, we'll wait to see. These classes will chop and change as time goes on. We're only 3 rounds into the 12-round season, but that is it on the standings for now. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And if you do want to know more about the UK sim racing community in terms of the series that we put on and what we stand for as a community on iRacing, then why not check us out at our official UK sim racing website, that's uksimracing.co.uk. Alternatively, you can go to our official Twitter, that's twitter.com/UK sim racing _. And do remember, once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you are tuning on Twitch, why not subscribe to our Twitch channel today, because you can obtain credits by doing so, and you can use these credits as part of purchasing league entries on our official website. So it all marries up, and you can subscribe at tier 1 for only £3.99 a month, or using a Twitch Prime subscription. Get your subscription in today and start getting those credits, and you can use them for future series. And we've got plenty of series lined up for the rest of 2022. You won't want to miss them. But also a big thank you to our affiliates, without whom we'd not be able to present these series, particularly our sponsor for this series, Swelio Ameda Sim Racing Coaching, their website there on YouTube. And on top of that as well, Race Anywhere. And remember that Race Anywhere is the provider of curated sim racing equipment, aiming to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now look ahead to round number 4 in a week's time. We head to Watkins Glen International for the first of our 3 feature races in this series, and it is the case, it'll be a much longer race. Strategy will be on the line, and what a perfect place to go racing. Watkins Glen, it's fast, it's furious, it's full of cambered corners, it's all about being on the loud pedal as soon as possible, and you will not want to miss it. The racing will happen on Sunday the 10th of July, but we'll be bringing you all of it as if it were live on Tuesday the 12th of July 2022. Do not be away. But until then, thank you very much for tuning in. We have been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host, Paul TX141 Walsh, and until next time, have a great weekend. Remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.